Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Crypto Analyst here, and welcome back to another cryptocurrency video. And Bitcoin could be about to make a very significant move. Now, this is an idea that's been floating around in the cryptocurrency space for some time now, but a couple of hours ago, Forbes actually posted an article talking about this very topic. Now, if you guys don't know, for the past couple of years, Bitcoin has historically made some pretty large moves around the time frame from mid-November to the end of December. And what I mean by that is actually last year, Bitcoin moved from $6,000 to $3,000 per token. The year before that, Bitcoin moved from around 6.7K to nearly $20,000. And back in 2013, Bitcoin moved from $200 to over $1,000. So it is a very historical factor that Bitcoin tends to get very volatile around the time from November to December, pushing into the new year. Now, while we aren't entirely sure why this happens, some say this happens because of its gold correlation, other people say it's the holidays, but it is one thing, to say that this does happen very, very often and frequently on Bitcoin, especially within the other cryptocurrencies as well. So what I wanted to do today is to talk about this and then put it into some technical analysis and kind of combine these two to talk about what could be coming Bitcoin's way if it actually wants to break to the upside and if it wants to break towards the downside. So we're going to be talking about the potential that this has towards both directions, because again, the possibilities are endless, but I do want to talk about what I think is probable and what I think is going to happen moving into this new year. So if you guys are interested, go ahead and stick around for the video, and do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button, as it does help out the channel a lot. But that being said, let's go ahead and dive on into this. Now, this was again published just a couple of hours ago on Forbes. Now, Forbes of all places, I'm sure most of you guys are aware and know what Forbes are, with them being one of the largest business brands in the world right now. So with them publishing this, it definitely caught my eye above everything else in the news right now. But reading this over, I think that they definitely made some very good points, in that historically speaking, Bitcoin does like to move around this time of year, at least for the past couple of years. And now, while it's not every single year, I think that would be a little bit too textbook for Bitcoin. And with Bitcoin being a little bit more unorthodox, I'm actually quite happy that this isn't something that happens every single year. Because could you imagine that if every year since 2010, 2011, Bitcoin at the exact time of November, December just makes this large move? I mean, it would definitely be the consensus point for a lot of market manipulation if that was going to be the case. But the fact of the matter is, this does not happen every year. So with that being said, it doesn't necessarily happen, have to happen this year. One of the things that really caught my eye over here is them talking about what's been happening in Bitcoin and what it can actually do from this point going forward. One of the quotes from them is that it's in no hurry to take out the old highs because there's a hangover of residual selling from the parabolic rally back in 2017, and there's just a whole lot of people that bought it and it got way too overextended, who are just being responsive sellers because of the fact that Bitcoin broke so far back upwards. And I want to go ahead and take a look at the daily time scale to kind of explain this. So if we go over here and we look, what they're kind of saying, and to put actions in the words of what they were trying to explain over here, is that when Bitcoin went parabolic, you had a lot of people buying from 15K upwards, or especially all the way up throughout this entire point. You had people buying the entire way up, especially the top. There was a lot of FOMO coming in from the point of 15K to 20K. So with all these people finally feeling they can get back out near break even, I mean, it went from $20,000 to $3,000. So when you have people getting back up into this area, let me go and tool this. So when you have people getting what looked like just almost all of their money lost from 20K all the way down to around 3K, when it goes from 3K up to 14K, or even in this 10K area, people are feeling that all of a sudden that there is a gleam of hope and that they can get some of their money out of this as they no longer trust it. Now, for some people, this is them needing the money, and for others, this is people just not wanting to hold, because again, in my personal opinion, I think that you can hold through this entire thing, and eventually, with time being on its side, it will surpass this. Now, some people just don't want to hold for that long. Maybe they need the money. Maybe they don't trust it anymore. There's 1,000 reasons why people might not want to hold. Maybe they just want more money for trading portfolios or to just reinvest. But the long story short of this is that what they were saying is that these investors, especially in these upper ranges, were starting to be selling off over in here, because these were the guys, and ideally, I hate to say this, but the people who are buying the top are also the people who are going to be selling the bottom. Unfortunately enough, it's a very common thing, and it's what enables traders to be traders, in that there's always going to be people buying the top and there's always going to be people selling the bottom. Not necessarily saying this is the bottom, because obviously it's not. I mean, around 3K was the very clear bottom for Bitcoin as of this year, and it's moved up significantly since then, but there was just a lot of people who bought in during this period who are now being able to sell off at least a good portion of what they invested, as opposed to a very, very fraction of a portion of what they were able to invest. So with Bitcoin moving into almost 2020 right now, I want to talk about where I think Bitcoin can go from here, because this is obviously a very important video, a very important topic that a lot of people are curious about. And I'll probably make a separate prediction video, but I do want to mention about the possibilities towards the up and the downside of Bitcoin, because it seemingly is kind of just hovering around this former resistance turn support area of this previous range. And of course, it broke below both of the EMAs now on the 4-hour and the daily time scale. So with Bitcoin being in this range, I see it doing a couple of things. So let's go ahead and talk about the bullish situation, and then we'll talk about the bearish. So first things first, with the bulls, I kind of just see this coming back down to, and let's draw this just a little bit better. I see this coming back down to the previous top of this channel, top of this resistance or trend line, whatever you want to call it, and then moving back upwards to at least retest some of these local highs. But ideally, I do see this moving back up and hitting a new high of year, I believe, a new high of year, or at least new high for the past couple of months, back over into this around 11, or not new high of year, new local high, moving around $11,500, because this is where that trend line is at. I mean, previous support now turned very, very clear resistance from this wick over in here, and we can see that. And I think that Bitcoin would bounce off of this, go right back up here, and would probably set a new local high for this swing, and then would probably be able to start swinging this momentum back towards the upside. Now, the possibility of this happening, I still think is very good. I still think Bitcoin's in a bullish situation right now, but if it were to turn bearish, what would happen is that this support line over here would actually end up breaking. You would have around the 7 to 8K range breaking, and Bitcoin would start falling pretty fast from there back to probably the heart line of this channel. Now, of course, the first support is going to be around 7.7, 7.6K. If that breaks, I think Bitcoin's falling very fast to the bottom of 6K, and then possibly even breaking into this 5K area around mid $5,500. Any lower than $4,200 on Bitcoin is where I think it starts to get a lot more scary, because if it breaks $4,200, I think that it could very well set in a new low of year. Anything above this, it's able to actually set a higher swing low for the most part, and continue in a path back upwards. And so what that would look like, if we look at this from a little bit more of a macro scale, is essentially, let's just say, it's coming down, bounces off this guy, and then it's going to do something like this, and then head back upwards. And then ideally, we would be able to conquer this area, or in the least retest it. So the macro of Bitcoin, I still think is a very bullish one. I saw, again, predictions about Bitcoin going to $900 or breaking below $1,000, and I still think it's, one, incredibly too early to make any kind of prediction like that, and two, it's a very, very bold statement that you just don't have enough analysis to go off of. Some people are saying that this is going to be a long-term bear market for Bitcoin, and that it's just going to continue kind of going down and dying out from here. Again, I think that there's just too much money invested in here. Again, we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. That's, I think, there's a very low chance that hundreds of billions of dollars are just going to bleed out of a market. It's just, at this point, I think that there's too much invested and there's too much money involved for it to just dissipate and disappear behind the scenes. It's just too much money for it to be logical, in my opinion. But moving forward, some of this bullish arguments, if Bitcoin actually wants to bounce off of this area and retest this range from anywhere from around 11.3K, I think that it could certainly test this, if not break it. And if it breaks it, immediately going for these local highs, being at around 12.2K, 13.1K, and around $14,000, or just below $14,000. If it breaks this, I mean, there's very little resistance up to 17K on Bitcoin. Past 17K, of course, you just have the near $20,000 resistance line, or really resistance point being the all-time high for Bitcoin. Now, if it does, let's just talk about worst case scenario. If Bitcoin wants to break down, break 4,200, break these yearly lows, where would it essentially fall to? Let's go ahead and look at this. So if it wants to break this area, the point that I could see it falling to is maybe, I mean, it's hard because there's a lot of buy orders stacked up over in here. I think that it could fall all the way back down into the 1000s area, but I don't think that it would really break 1000. I think $1,200 would be the for sure low of Bitcoin. Any lower than that, you know, it would be very, very speculative, and even getting into the 1000s is far past what I would believe Bitcoin would go to anytime soon. So one of the things that I was looking at most recently on this divergence is actually the fact that Bitcoin could be getting ready for a bounce very, very soon. And while some people don't like indicators and oscillators, I think that this is showing me something very clear, in my opinion, is that there's consistently higher swing lows on the relative strength index, being that you have this first one, second one, third one, and what looks to be like this support line of sorts. Again, I know it's not a candle chart, but what appears to be a support line on this relative strength index of Bitcoin coming back down here, and I would believe would bounce somewhere around this 38 area, and then head to at least the overbought territory, in my opinion, on Bitcoin, if not breaking, you know, well into this up towards 80, 90 area. So with this happening, what this is telling me more so than anything, not saying that I think it's going to bounce because of support, but I want you guys to recognize the trend, because I think the trend of this is saying that there is consistently less power from the bears upon each swing to the downside. So when I'm seeing the bears can get consistently weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker readings each time they have these downside moves, it's telling me that they're losing strength every time they are pushing Bitcoin down, and it's only a matter of time until they're not able to push it down anymore. They lose this battle, and then Bitcoin starts moving up, and you start seeing the bulls vividly on the candle chart in correlation to the relative strength index. So with that being said, guys, I do want to go ahead and start rounding this off, but I think that the macro of Bitcoin here is still a bullish one. I know it broke some of my support lines over in here, but I'm looking at this from the volume and other things, and I do think that it's due for a bounce pretty soon over in here. Of course, if major supports start breaking, this definitely does have room to turn bearish, but I think it's hard to say that as of right now, as it's still too early, and I still believe the macros of Bitcoin to be pretty bullish. And again, I really enjoyed this article by Forbes. I'll have this linked in the description down below if any of you guys want to check it out. It was definitely a very good read, wasn't too long at all, and brought up some really good key information that, you know, I definitely thoroughly enjoyed. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as it does help out the channel a lot, and let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you guys bullish or are you guys bearish on the current market sentiment of Bitcoin? And do you think Bitcoin has the possibility to make one of these large market moves this year? Again, kind of a crazy question. We will find out in the coming months. But thank you guys once again so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.